Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jersey Shore Podcast.
Stone cold hearts in the land of the free. Galvanized truth, just you and me. Freedom ain't cheap, gotta hold tight. In Jersey Shore, we'll win this fight. No more tears, just righteous pride. In the streets, our spirits reside. Unity strong, we walk this line. One big voice, it's our time. Jersey Shore, we got the fight. Stand together through the night. America first, raising the flag. We ain't never gonna lag. No more tears, just righteous pride. In the streets, our spirits reside. Unity strong, we walk this line. One big voice, it's our time. Generation fighters take the stand. From shore to shore, we reclaim the land. Grit and glory in every strand. In Jersey Shore, we make our stand.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Jersey Shore Podcast. It's S-U-R-E because we are always sure. And we see a little bit of difference there. You're going to see this is the start of the APN, America's Pulse Network. So we have a special guest that's going to be coming on in about a moment. I just want to get through the monologue, and we'll talk about the new network and everything else in a little bit. But I just wanted to just talk about, the Democrats. They're absolutely losing their minds. Every single day, they prove just how out of touch they are with reality. I mean, let's start with DOGE. I mean, Elon Musk is out there exposing government waste and holding government workers accountable just to basically prove they're alive. But and that's funny. It really is that people that they're so up in arms about it. They don't want to answer the emails, and the Democrats or the far left, they say it's wrong. Well, we want to know who we're paying. I know just today on my way here, found out there was a guy I was listening to on the radio. I forget what state it was. He was collecting Social Security checks under 34 different Social Security numbers. It was over $1 million a year. They just exposed. So I don't know what the deal is. Why Democrats are so afraid. There's a reason why. So that's why the federal district judges are blocking DOGE. So I'll put that in your mind and you think about it. Why are they? Then there's Ilya Omar out there. Telling doing the interview and saying that Americans are stupid, voters are stupid, you can't talk to them. Well, thanks, keep going, keep going down that road. It's going to look really, really good for you. And then we have the NSA. The NSA, we're more focused on DEI quotas than national security. Turns out these intelligence professionals were using government channels to chat about their personal fetishes. Now, we're talking about national security here, and these clowns are acting like they're on Tinder. It's unbelievable. And let's not forget about the insanity of the far left that are still fighting for men to play in women's sports. So we'll get into that later. But if the left keeps wanting to double down, have at it, because the red wave is going to turn into a red tsunami soon. So let's bring on our special guest, Peter Mimmo. Peter, thank you for coming on. We'll be on in a second.
Hey, Damon, it's great to be here. I'm back in the saddle. I had done about 80 plus shows on PHT prior to the election. Then when the election was over, I kind of gave it up, because it's a big sacrifice, the work that you do. But it's important to get the message out. I didn't think there'd be anything to talk about after the election. It turns out there's more to talk about now than there was even before the election. So maybe I stepped back too soon, but thank you very much for the invite.
Yeah, no problem. So I always say, if you don't like the news, what's going on right now, wait 5 minutes. It's going to change because that's how fast things are moving.
Damon, and we had talked about this when we were chatting earlier in the week. The way I see it, the Democrats have one plan, and that's the hope that Trump fails. That's it. The only path back to power is betting against American success. That's really sad. No vision, no plan, no leadership. just waiting and praying for America to lose. I don't think I like that position if I was a Democrat.
No, I wouldn't either. And I don't understand. They don't, it's almost like they don't care. And Trump needs to be mindful of that too, because the number one thing with voters and American citizens is the economy. Of course, we care about the border and we care about everything else, but when your wallet's hurting, you have to get the economy. It doesn't matter if he inherited no Biden, I would say, economy, and it wasn't his fault, but he's got to turn it around pretty quick because they're going to use it against him. They're already trying. It's been in a month, and they're saying, "Oh well, how come things still cost this much?" It's like
the price of eggs. The whole last 4 years, they never even mentioned eggs. Now all of a sudden, this guy's been in 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks, and they're worried about the price of eggs that quick. Well, things don't move quite that fast, even if we make the changes that we want to make. It will come, but it takes time and it takes consumer confidence. And the people have to see that, the efforts that Trump and his team are putting in are going to be successful. And then they're going to, I think it'll be a wave. I really think things will turn around. I was looking at his cabinet meeting the other day, and I was thinking to myself, in my lifetime, this might be the most solid cabinet that I've ever seen in a presidency. I mean, these are serious people. These are people that want to get a job done. And, when Kash Patel got confirmed, I finally slept at night because to me, he was the most important of all the nominees. They waited for last for him. I'm just so happy that he was able to get in and that the Republicans stuck together. That was a surprise, huh?
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's the only thing. Republicans tend to get in their own way, and we do it here in New Jersey as well. But they stuck together.
It's frustrating. I'm a Pennsylvania voter, right? And Madeline Dean is my representative. She voted over 99% of the time with Nancy Pelosi. Now, there's a big difference between San Francisco and Jenkintown. So why would she be voting Pelosi's values? What about our values? We live on another side of the country. I'd like a little bit of representation in Washington to kind of be our voice. I mean, I don't expect you to go, far right, but you could at least be sympathetic to some of the constituents that you have in your district rather than going, just being a yes vote for Pelosi on every vote. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I know. It is frustrating. It's very frustrating. But going back to Kash Patel, I think that was one of the number one getting him in. And well, I knew Rubio was going to get in. He was very important. And even Gabbard and RFK, I liked him getting in as well. Hegseth, that was a surprise for me that he was picked. I didn't really think Trump had his eyes on him, but when he picked him, I was like, that's a great pick. Like he wasn't even on my radar for a pick.
I might be reading between the lines, but when Rubio got 99 votes, I was starting to think maybe that's not good because the Republicans just don't get that kind of support in the Senate. Do some of the Democrats know something we don't? I sure hope not. But the good thing about Trump is, I like Rubio. I think he'll do a good job. Good thing about Trump is if you don't get the job done, you're not going to be around a whole heck of a lot of time. He'll make his moves. There's no question about that. And the other thing is Trump this smart or is he this lucky? He seems to be pressing all the issues that are like 75-20 issues. Illegal criminal alien deported. They're protecting that. Fraud, waste, and abuse. They're protecting that. Men and women's sports. They're protecting that. These are all 80-20 issues. Let them run on that, especially in Jersey with the governor race coming up. Let them run on those issues. These are 80-20 issues. And the Democrats just seem to be on the wrong side of all of them. I don't know if Trump's that smart to put him in that position, but that's sure working out in our favor, if you ask me.
Oh, it definitely is. Definitely is. I mean, it seems like America, Trump has his finger on the pulse, I would say, America's Pulse Network, of the American citizens, of the voters, because they're tired of it. They were so fed up with all the BS and everything was going on, what they're teaching in schools and men and women's sports. Like I said, everything you just said. It's just common sense issues.
These are common sense issues. These are issues that, when you look at the election and how the results came out, Sure, MAGA was 45, 47%, but what got you over the top was the white collar people, the blue collar people, the no collar people, the people that have tattoos, the people that wear sandals in the wintertime. All these people, these are common sense issues. I was concerned about that because if you believe what you saw on TV, they were telling you it was close, which it wasn't. But I really appreciate the fact that America woke up. I really, really appreciate that. And we needed help to get over the top. And these common sense issues, people showed up and they made their voice heard.
Yeah, I think the big part of it was the mainstream media lying the whole time about Biden and his condition. Everyone knew he was declining, but they stuck up for him over and over and over again. And everyone really knew. But they're like, oh, yeah, he's doing backflips in the White House. We can't keep up with him. Okay, sure.
Right.
And then we went to that debate with Trump and just declined and melted down right on stage. The mainstream media, they couldn't stick up for him anymore. That's why their ratings plummeted, and there was nothing that said that they had to admit it. And then they get Kamala in, and then that's when the podcast started blowing up. Trump goes on Rogan. And no one trusts the mainstream media anymore because then we find out that they're being paid money by the Biden administration.
Unbelievable. I often wondered about what was in it for the American media, the mainstream media. What was always in it for them to be paying for programming that nobody watches? But as it turns out, me and you were subsidizing those programs. We were paying CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, BBC, Politico, Washington Post,
NPR,
NPR, and PBS. Right? They're bad enough. The public broadcasting and MNLSD, I call them. And and now they come out with, believe it or not, I call him Fake Tapper, Jake Tapper. He's got a book coming out about how the media covered up Biden's mental situation. He was the one doing it. He was the one doing it.
Yeah, that book better not sell. Like he was backing him. So I watched a clip of him today. I forget what it was. Was it somebody on Fox? One of those shows. I watched it last night, and I think it was Gutfeld. And I was watching it, and I saw they played a clip of him saying, "Oh, he's great. What are you talking about? Your answer is stutter. He stutters." And now he comes out with a book, and he wants everyone to buy it.
I always say, Damon, that truth is not a left-wing value. It's a liberal value. It's a conservative value. It is not a left-wing value. They lie about everything, and then they just move on to the next lie. I've never heard an apology for the $60 million we spent on a special counsel for a Russian hoax. Why don't somebody like Rachel Maddow come on TV and say, hey, I was wrong. I was dead. You never hear that. It's always on to the next lie. And, so I've come up with the theory that truth is not a left-wing value. I hate to say that, but I really believe that. I really do. It's all about power for them and whatever fits the narrative.
No, I agree with you. And speaking of Rachel Maddow, I mean, her $30 million contract at MSNBC, I don't know what she has on them, but after they fired Joy Reid, which who deserved to be fired, she was the race baiting host of her show. But Rachel Maddow goes on and just attacks MSNBC, saying how they're wrong, and she didn't agree. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, really? I'm like, you got a $30 million contract, and you do one show a week. It's like $400,000 a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
And so crazy. What does he have on them? Like, I mean, to have the guts to do that, to say something like, I don't know.
And the other thing is, if she really feels that way, why don't she quit? Start her own podcast, and she can hire all minority people to run her podcast. She can do everything she says that she believes. If she really believes it, why don't she resign and do that? She could do that, but she's not going to do that. She's just going to project her values and her platitudes on us. But the good news is nobody watches. So who cares what she said at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, well, that contract's going to get cut because American taxpayers not paying for them anymore. So,
God bless them.
They're raiding in the basement. So,
yeah, God bless them. Can you imagine
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Can you imagine our tax dollars? You work in a factory and you're subsidizing Rachel Maddow's show. Isn't that's And they want to protect that. Good luck with that one. I'll tell you that.
Oh, I know. Trust me. When I found that out, I was fired up. I got 2 herniated discs in my back from work. And
Yeah,
I
exactly.
go to work every day, pay my taxes, raise my kids. And I'm like, why taxpayer dollars are going to these news stations to spew lies and hate and call us all racist and, toxic masculinity and have, trans into kids in schools when they're young and not telling the parents about it. All this stuff going on. I'm like, and they're talking about it on these media outlets, and they're pushing this narrative. And a lot of people, I mean, I one thing I figured out that because I ran for Congress, and one thing I figured out is that media can be more powerful than politics, because what do people do? They go home and they watch TV. And they listen to it over and over. And I had a lady call into my show, on my radio show on 92.1 WVLT before this. And she was asked about Elon Musk and he's not elected and this and that, what he was going through. And she was like a raging lunatic. And I'm talking to her and I'm like, well, what's your question? So she asked me a question and I go to answer it. And she just, boom, trashed right on top of me. I'm like, listen, do you want me to answer the question or not? And then she just rambled on. And I said, are you ready? I said, I'm willing to have a conversation. I like when people call in that disagree and actually have a conversation. And then I said, okay, this is why. And boom, she just cut on rambling. So I had to cut her. And that's like the far left. That's what they do because they watch all these shows all the time. And they're like, oh, no, this is the way it is. Trump's he's Hitler. He's a fascist. And this and that. And I said, I've never seen I got like maybe 2 words in. I said, if he's a fascist, I said, I've never seen a fascist government try to downsize. That's the only words I got.
The guy works for free. How could he be a fascist? And when's the last time a fascist left the office that he was in? Right?
Exactly.
Trump left office. He didn't stay in office.
Yeah.
I don't consider January 6th an insurrection. The Republicans are the only ones that have riots that start at noon and end at 4:00. All the Democrats start their riots at like nighttime and they don't end. They go on for days and days and days. But, the thing that bothered me the most, and it's not that I'm getting called a racist and a bigot, and I'm an old white guy, so I'm in the line of fire. There's no question about it. But it's really the anti-American message that really, really bothers me for our kids, for our grandkids. They have to hear that. And it's not just on MSNBC. It's in the schools, too, because the teachers' unions kind of project the same thing. Now, that's not all teachers. There's probably a heck of a lot of good teachers out there. But, when you start to, like you said, Plato said a long time ago, he who controls the narrative controls the people. So when you said, hey, I think the media is more important than the politicians, you are 100% right. That's a proven fact. Whoever controls that narrative is going to control the people. Unfortunately, guys like us are few and far between that sort out, the BS from what's real. Right now, like all BS. So, we can't control that, but more and more people are going to podcasts. You see CBS, NBC, people ain't watching those shows anymore. They're listening to Dennis Prager. They're listening to Ben Shapiro. They're listening to Damon Galdo. They're listening to Mark Levin. This is what people are doing now. It pushed me to do that. I was never a podcast guy, but I want the truth, whether it's good news or bad news. I just want to know. That's all. And I couldn't get that out of the mainstream media. So tell me a little bit about CPAC. That had to be really exciting to be there. What a CPAC this year. The energy, you could feel the electric on TV.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to CPAC in New Jersey twice. First time I went down to Virginia. It was right outside of DC. And yeah, the energy was amazing. It was really good. We got a couple great interviews. I'll cut some clips in a minute. But we set up down there, walked around, talked to people. And a divide from everybody. It's like it was the same thing as the inauguration. Like I didn't see one argument, one fight. Like nobody like talking bad about anybody. Mm-hmm. Everyone was happy. Everyone was on the same page. It felt like they're getting their country back, and it was just like, like a breath of fresh air. Like finally, we can get out of this mess that we're in. with this Biden administration, and even I would say the Obama administration started it, and they were shocked that Trump got in the first time, so that's why they tried to go after him so hard. But now he's back, and now we're getting our country back. You can see it in everyone's faces. I interviewed a couple J6ers there too.
Yeah, and listen, thank God Trump let them out. Even the ones that, were involved in some stuff they probably shouldn't have been involved in. I mean, they did 4 years. They got a record on, and they had to pay a lot of money to their lawyer. Believe me, they didn't get any big break for sure. And the poor kid, Enrico, he was in Philadelphia. He wasn't even in Washington, D.C. He got 20 years. Can you imagine that? 20 years. He wasn't even in D.C.
Yeah.
Enrico Tarius. And I'm not promoting the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers and this guy and that. I don't even know who these guys. I never heard of them. But, they're not a main thing in the Republican Party, that's for sure. But you also mentioned that one of your callers said that Elon Musk wasn't elected. Do you remember the name Valerie Jarrett in Obama's administration? What was her role?
Yes.
What was her role? Nobody elected. How about Susan Rice in the Biden administration? What was her? Who elected her? Okay. And you talk about DOGE and I mean, do these people forget this is the guy that invented PayPal? He's already got your social security number. He's got your check routing. He's got your Venmo.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
If he wanted that, he'd already have it. I mean, why would the richest man in the world want my money? It's a weak argument. And I hope they keep fighting him because I believe the groundswell of American people see where their money's going. And it is really making a lot of people upset. It really, really is. And I'm so happy that transparency is coming and we're seeing where this money's going. It is disgusting. It really is disgusting.
Yeah. So, all right. So listen, for CPAC, I'm going to roll first clip. Let's play S1B1.
Fighters take the stand from shore to shore. We reclaim the land. Grit and glory in every strand. In Jersey Shore, we make our stand.
Oh, sorry.
How you doing? My name is Damon Galdo. I'm the host of the Jersey Shore podcast. That's SURE because we're always shore. So we're down here at the convention. We want to network with people, and we saw the table over there. So tell me about your club.
Yeah, my name's Andrew. I'm with the Log Cabin Republicans. We are America's oldest and largest organization for LGBT conservatives, Republicans, and straight allies.
Okay, cool. How did it get started?
Log Cabin got started back in the late 70s, actually, thanks to the support of then Governor Ronald Reagan of California, where he had been advised by Republican members of his staff who are gay to oppose the Briggs Initiative, which would have prevented homosexuals from teaching in California public schools. And after that victory, he said that he respects the work that these folks did and they should organize. And that's where Log Cabin was born.
That's great. Other than Trump, he's one of my favorite presidents. I have the speech on my wall, time for choosing.
No, he's great. And he actually, since then, the Trump family has really taken up that mantle and been huge supporters of us. We were the only organization to collaborate with Mrs. Trump, First Lady Melania, since past cycle. She's a big supporter of ours, and we could not be more grateful for the support. We've ran the LGBT coalition for the campaign for the last 2 cycles, and while in 2020 our focus was mostly targeting fellow gay and lesbian Republicans for the campaign's input, we actually put more of our focus in 24 on groups in general that may have, for whatever reason, felt alienated by the GOP. So we targeted primarily through our field staff, through our ads, women voters, young voters, and it turns out sometimes there's a different voice saying the same message, and we pulled out a win. I could not be happier to get Trump back in the White House.
That's great. That's great. That's awesome. Because my nephew's gay, and one of my best friends is gay as well. But one thing he doesn't like, he's like, I don't push this on the kids, transgender kids. How's your organization? What do you feel about that?
One of the biggest items on our wish list for President Trump when he entered the White House was to end any medical interventions for children.
Good interview there, Damon. Log Cabin Republicans, they've been around a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, man, my back was on fire when I was standing around all day. But yeah, but it was good. I walked up to the table and I asked him about it, and I asked him to interview, and he was more than happy to do that. So I think he hit on a lot of good things.
Let me ask you a question. One interesting thing from CPAC that not a lot of people are talking about. A, did you have a chance to cast a vote in a straw poll? And B, were you surprised that Vance won the straw poll? I know he's got a lot of wind at his back, so to speak. But, I'm still holding out hope for DeSantis. I think DeSantis is really a proven conservative. You've seen what he's done in Florida. He doesn't have the charisma of a J.D. Vance, but he sure has a proven track record of being a conservative, what he's done down in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of probably the best governor in the United States. I mean, there's other ones out there that are pretty good, but I think DeSantis is a great governor. He's straight, he's to the point, he's honest, he knows what's right, he knows common sense, and he's not afraid to put himself out there for what is actually common sense and right.
That's one of the reasons that I really jumped on his bandwagon. He was the first one to get away from the mandates and the masks and the vaccinations, and everybody said all the kids are going to get sick, all the kids are going to die. If he was wrong about that decision, he would be out of politics for good. He made a stand, went out there on his own, and he was right. And I give him a lot of credit for that. It took a lot of guts. Florida was open and free before any state in the whole country. A lot of people were going to Florida because you didn't have to wear a mask. You didn't have to have a vaccine to go into a club or go shopping or whatever. And I give him a lot of credit for that because he really stood out. So what'd you think about the straw poll?
I don't know. I didn't get a chance to be involved in it. I wound up leaving a little bit early. So, because like I said, I wasn't feeling that great. My back killing me. So I can't give you too much information on it, to be honest with you.
And how do you feel about Vance winning that? Is he somebody that you would lean to in 2028, or are we just way premature to even talk about it?
I think it's premature to talk about it. I'm just saying I love DeSantis, but I would go with Vance for president after Trump. I mean, he's vice president now. So, I mean, if DeSantis wants to run again, then he may, but maybe he should be vice president. So,
yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. And
yeah,
he's my age, I think.
He's young. DeSantis is he's not a really old guy. He's got a great resume too. Went to Yale on a baseball scholarship. Came from a middle class family. Then he went to law school. I think it was either Harvard or one of those schools. Got his law degree. Joined the Navy as a JAG. Served in Iraq. Got a Bronze Star over there. Came back, ran for Congress. I mean, the guy's got a solid resume. He's a great family man. But J.D. Vance, the same, right? He, very educated guy, came from nothing, put himself through school, did serve in the military. So I like our position. We got a lot of great candidates in our bullpen, so to speak, don't we? Who are they going to run? I guess Gavin Newsom. Who else would they run? Gavin Newsom's the guy?
I don't know, AOC.
Oh, geez. I don't know if she's old enough yet. You got to be like 35 or something to be president. I don't think she's that old yet.
She would be in 28.
Oh, yeah, in 4 years, yeah. She may have her eyes on Christian Hildebrand's seat in the Senate. That lady, Christian Hildebrand, who's been a New York senator for years, older white lady, would seem that she would be able to knock her off her perch in a moment's notice. Plus, Schumer's getting old. That POS, so to speak. And AOC's on the way up. Believe me, her in the Democratic Party, believe it or not, she has a lot of magnitude. She's got a lot of gravitas. It's hard to believe, but
very hard to believe. Very, very, very hard to believe. I don't know how she's an Instagram like star. That's about it. I mean, and that's what it is. You know, you're popular enough on Instagram.
She's giving lectures about how stupid Elon Musk is. I don't think we're going to get too far with that one. Say what you want about Musk. He's a weirdo. He dresses weird, right?
Yeah.
He's not stupid, okay?
No, he's not. I want to see her create a rocket that, you know, that
Exactly. He's not a dumb guy. There's no question about that. Not a dumb guy. We need people like that. You know, we finally have smart people that are in charge of things, as opposed to the last administration, which was the absolute worst team to address the world, the foreign policy, the economic, the moral, cultural issues here. The exact wrong team in place for the last 4 years. The amount of damage they did is measurable. Believe me, it's going to take us a while to dig out of this hole. If anybody can do it, it's Donald Trump. So we're on board 100%. But he did a lot of damage in his 4 years.
It's astronomical, the damage did in 4 years. I mean, with the inflation, just the open border alone, the amount of money we spent on that, and all the Americans that died, just from fentanyl, from the illegal aliens that are criminals,
Yes.
and stuff like that. It did so much psychological damage to the people, so much economic damage to this country, and even our foreign relations as well. You know, we look like a weak country, a very weak country. That's why Trump is coming in strong.
Yep.
And that's the thing too with Trump. I mean, I know a lot of people are getting upset with him. Trump is the best troller out there. He does it all the time. That's why he says the candidate, be our 51st state and all that. He knows what he's talking about. He doesn't really mean it, but he just threatens with tariffs. He wants to make sure the border secure. He threatens Mexico with tariffs, and and then they cave and they send 10,000 soldiers to their border to help close the border. So I mean, it's not like he wants to really do the tariffs as much. He wants to make things even. But it's all a threat. It's just like a lady called on my radio show earlier. She said that Trump called Zelensky a dictator, and I couldn't. She wouldn't even let me talk, so I had to finish it after I cut her off. And she said, "Why would we call her a dictator? Call Zelensky a dictator?" And I'm trying to tell her why. I'm like, well, here's the reason why. This is the way I look at it. There's no way that this war would end at all. We can't keep funding the war. There's no way they're going to get them out of Donbass and Crimea. So they're going to have to make a deal. And Biden was never going to be the bad guy and step up and say that Trump doesn't care. He'll be the bad guy and he'll call Zelensky out, because Zelensky cannot go in front of his people after watching, a lot of his people died, and there's his people saw, their brothers, their fathers, and everything else die. He can't just give it up without kicking and screaming. So Trump, I believe, is being the bad guy to call Zelensky out and say, probably talking to him behind closed doors. He said, I'll be the bad guy. I'll call you a dictator. You can get mad. He said, I'll never take a deal between America and Russia. And then you two come to the table, and I'll be the bad guy so you don't look bad in front of your people. I truly believe that's what it is, because that's the only way to end this war, because Zelensky he's got to save face.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And we can't be fooled by the media and the narrative about Trump and his relationship with Putin. When Trump was president, he was the hardest president on Russia in the last, maybe since Ronald Reagan, from 16 to 20. And I think that'll happen again. The media are scribes. They're mouthpieces for the Democratic Party. Let's look at some hard facts about Ukraine. One, Ukraine can never win this war. Never. I wish they could. I wish they could beat Russia. But Russia is too big and too powerful. Number two, Ukraine is losing an entire generation of young men. What sense does that make? Number three, USA is pouring billions of our tax dollars into Ukraine. How long can we expect to foot that bill? We're dead broke now. We're 36 trillion in debt. And number four, and very important, Ukraine will never be in NATO. That is a deal killer for Putin. He doesn't want NATO on the border. I'm not a Putin guy. I think Putin is an evil killer. He poisons guys. Thank God he wasn't in charge over here. They'd have poisoned Trump instead of trying to lock him up and shoot him. But so I'm not, believe me, I'm not pro-Putin. But these are hard, cold facts. So Ukraine's going to have to give up the land that they've got. The fact that our businesses are in there doing the mining and doing that, and probably doing some covert espionage as well, that's a deterrent right there. Putin's not going to bomb or invade if Americans are there. That would be the kiss of death. And isn't it Europe's responsibility to provide security for Europe? Why do we always have to be the ones that send our boys to battle? That scares me. Finland and other countries. If Russia would to have a flare up with them, we got to send our kids over there. I don't know, man. That's a heavy lift. And if Ukraine got NATO, that wouldn't be good for NATO. I don't think, in my own opinion. That's just my opinion.
No, I don't think so either. I think that's one of the reasons why it started, because Biden was kind of entertaining that for Ukraine to get into NATO, and he was a weak president, lame duck president. So that's when Putin decided to invade. And when Biden comes out, oh, if there's a minor incursion, I'm okay.
That's okay, right?
Yeah, a minor incursion, that's an invasion.
Well,
so just like a minor incursion on our southern border or northern border.
Look who was in charge when that happened, right? Biden, Milley, Blinken, Sullivan. That's who I blame. Ukraine should be blaming them. They shouldn't be blaming Donald Trump. This would have never happened if Donald Trump was president. We had a weak foreign policy. People laughed at Blinken. This guy is a covert actor. He's the guy that was behind the Hunter laptop letter. It's not a guy that deserves to be in charge of foreign policy. Marco Rubio would never be involved in something like that. Telling intelligence agents to lie to the public in order to influence an election. Don't these people have any integrity? I mean, and Putin sees that.
They had none whatsoever. They didn't care. I think the deep state goes very deep. And I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. Who's on? You have people like Soros, funding all this stuff. And Soros, he really wants to destroy this country. I'm glad Trump got in. I'm sure he's not very happy about that. But I mean, even Biden going over to Russia, I think it was his first year in office, and he has a list of 16 things. He's got it in his hand, and he said, I went and I talked to Putin, and I said, you can't attack these 16 things in the United States. It'll kill our infrastructure. And I'm like, what did you just say?
Who fights a war like that? Right?
You can't touch this. This will really hurt us.
Right.
Don't.
Yeah.
I'm like,
right.
And he's got the list in his hand, and you can see it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And it was serious.
It's a joke.
I was like, we are done. We are
Listen,
so done.
The smart play is peace. Stop the killing. That is the smart play. Trump knows it. Not everybody's going to get what they want. Ukraine's going to lose some land. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry. But the fighting, the killing, and the billions of dollars that we're pumping into there, God knows how much of that's coming back. And you know what I mean by that. That's got to end. That's got to end. I have a sneaking feeling that a lot of this USAID money, do I really believe that they were paying for a gay library in Peru? I mean, that money was coming back. I want to see a copy of that comic book, that gay pride comic. I don't believe there is one. That money's all coming back. You can't prove that yet. But you're going to see. That's going to come out in the long run, how much of that money circled right on back here.
Yeah, if it doesn't come out in the wash, it'll come out in the rinse, I'm sure.
I think it will. I really do. So we're just scratching the surface. It's going to be a fun ride for the next 4 years. It really is. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, it is. So, I want to roll this next clip. I want to roll S1V2. This is another.
My name is Damon Galdo with Jersey Shore Podcast. It's SURE because we're on shore under the America's Pulse Network. So, over there. What's the name of
I'm Matthew Webler. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I was arrested for participation in J6. I went up there to peacefully protest in March. Things were out of hand. I went in the building and walked around for 20 minutes. I didn't do anything wrong. They didn't charge me with anything but a misdemeanor and a petty offense. They came with 50 officers to my house, guns drawn, put my wife in handcuffs, and destroyed my life over a petty offense, less than a misdemeanor. When they came in my house, they found an unregistered short barrel rifle in my neighborhood that I had a stop on it. It had a short barrel. I didn't register with the feds, and I got 5 years for that. President Trump pardoned me January 20th. I served 36 months in prison, 37 months. Yeah. It was fantastic. But the greatest thing is we got to see Americans, thousands and thousands of Americans stood up, voted us, supported us financially. They worked really hard for us, and it was amazing. We don't.
All right, so we're back up here. So that interview with that guy, I cut it short. I'm going to play the rest of it later. There's a lot worse things that happened to him after that. They adopted a 2-month-old baby. They weren't allowed to have kids. Not allowed to have kids. I'm sorry. They weren't able to have kids. And then they wound up losing the baby, and his wife left him. And it goes on all this that happened to him.
So his entire life was ruined because he walked through the Capitol. Wow, that's great.
Yeah, the other interviews with other people, I'll play in different episodes. People just walked in, didn't do anything, and walked out. And he said the doors were wide open. Now, I don't condone J6 at all. I mean, people are smashing windows and everything like that. No, they were stupid. They shouldn't have ever done anything like that. But if the doors are open and they're letting you walk in, I need to go to jail for that.
Yeah, and when you couple that and contrast it to what we saw in the George Floyd riots, the people that were burning buildings down, there were people that were killed in fires, there were deaths, and I haven't seen the prosecutions of them. I haven't seen the heavy hand of the law coming down on them like they did all these January 6 people. I mean, they had a woman that was over 70 years old, a grandmother. They went to her house with a SWAT team. I mean, now what sense does that make? This government under Biden, the Department of Justice under Merrick Garland, was the most corrupt, most, I'm just going to say heavy-handed in their prosecutions against conservatives and religious people. I've never seen that in my life where they didn't care about anything, how it looked or anything. They wanted their pound of flesh, and they got it one way or another. Totally wrong. I mean, these people did not have fair trials. You're going to put them on trial, and you tell me it's a trial of their peers in Washington, D.C., where 99% of the people voted for Biden. Do you know that the prosecutions for the January 6ers was like 1,200 to 0? They didn't lose one case. Now, that's impossible. There's usually a technicality or something. Evidence was misplaced or somebody falls through the cracks. No, but they were 100% on their prosecutions. That's impossible unless you're in Washington, D.C., where you got D.C. judges and you got D.C. juries. So, that's what you're up against. And everybody says, I want to prosecute this guy and that guy. Well, we saw Durham. If you remember the Durham report that came out, where he prosecuted some FBI agents for the Russia hoax. He had emails, text messages. He had them dead to rights. They all got off, except for one guy that admitted that he lied on a FISA warrant. They all got off because they were prosecuted in Washington, D.C. They all got off, even though the evidence was overwhelmingly stacked against them. So I don't think we'll get any convictions if we prosecute in D.C. But I would like them to have hearings so we could at least find out what the truth is. Bring the pardoned people in, let them testify. If they lie, then you can prosecute them. But I want to hear I want to know exactly what went on. I want to know the truth. And I think there's a story to be told there, how the government coordinated to get these people to really ruin their lives for trespassing. I mean, it's ridiculous, really.
They absolutely did. I don't know if you ever saw the Tucker Carlson interview with the Capitol Police Chief at the time. He had the interview with him on Fox, but they never aired it. It's when Tucker was fired. And so it never was aired. So he had him in again when he went out on his own. And that interview, the police chief, he talks about how he kept calling in for National Guard over and over. He wrote a book about it, and he has everything time stamped with the phone calls. He said he made over 60 phone calls, and they just kept stonewalling him. They wanted the people to go in there. They wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And hopefully with Cash Patel at the FBI and Bongino, we're going to find out how many FBI agents, or they're going to say, oh, we weren't any FBI agents. They were all assets that were in the crowd. Well, who was handling those assets? Who were they emailing? Who were they texting? Who were they getting their instructions from? Who were they reporting back to? So that's the same thing as having an FBI agent on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. So, and then, so still talking about CPAC too. What to tell you, all the interviews that we gave at the same time, and then I ran into Steve Bannon. So, and he had the war room set up there, stage, and went over, and I was talking to this girl. She was on the other side of the stage, and I didn't know it was his daughter. It was Bo Bannon, and there's a local guy here in Frank Cedar who lives in Deptford, well, Woodbury, Deptford, like in between, and he did a sculpture for Donald Trump about 18 years ago. He's an artist, and he can sculpt him. He's very, very talented. He's awesome. And I met him through this guy, David Aber, was on the committee in Deptford. And he wants to he drew up this rendering of the Trump Memorial Library. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's awesome. And he put a lot of stuff together. He put a lot of time and effort into it, but he couldn't get it in the right hands. So I brought it with me to CPAC, and I showed Steve Bannon it when I was talking to him. And he's like, wow. He's like, this is awesome. Because Trump wants to build that sculpture park. Like he had it. I mean, you can look it up on Wikipedia. He had it ready to go, and then Biden got in, and he signed an executive order and shut it down. So that pissed him off. So he's got it rolling again. He wants to build it. So I showed the Bannon, and we actually exchanged information. So I've been texting back and forth. He's like, all right, when are you going to send the rest of the drawings over? He said, I want to get it to Trump. So that's pretty cool if that happens.
That is really cool. I really like Steve Bannon. He's a hero. He's a military guy. He was a captain in the Navy. He's a guy that played by the rules. If you ask me, he was the first guy to say the American media is the enemy of the people. We know that now. When he first said that, he was vilified for that. And 5 years later, we know that he's absolutely right. The American media is the enemy of the people because they're propagandists. They're left-wing scribes, mouthpieces. It's always anti-Trump. It's always anti-American. And, so at least he opened up our eyes to that. And he still has a great voice out there. And I know a lot of people listen to him.
Yeah, they do. So before we go to our next segment, I just want to advertise this book here. This is Bone Deep Blues. So Bone Deep Blues is ripped from today's headlines by New Jersey author Brian O'Callahan. This book is an award-winning international bestseller that delivers action, suspense, and humor. The story follows J.D. Walker, a former Navy SEAL turned blues musician, and he confronts a human trafficking network led by a figure known as the Ice Queen. When those close to J.D. are taken, he finds himself in high-stakes chess game, an auction to sell his brother's fiance to take place. Now, Brian O'Callahan, he's a local guy. He's a former police detective, so he combines, personal experiences and extensive research, weaving in his passion for blues music as well. Bone Deep Blues kicks off the J.D. Walker action series because there's more books coming out, and tackles the pressing issue of human trafficking with well-developed characters that spring to life in this fast-paced narrative. This exhilarating book is now available in print and digital format on Amazon.com and thebigdogmedia.com. So Amazon.com, thebigdogmedia.com. And Bone Deep Blues by Brian R. O'Callahan actually has a 4.8 out of 5-star reviews on Amazon.
I'm going to check it out. I'm definitely going to check it out. I love those Navy SEAL books.
Yeah, it is pretty good. I did say that I was starting to read it a little bit here and there, but I really did start to read it for real this time because my wife was reading it. She's further into me, and the beginning is a little dark until then when they go, I want to give it away, and the couple goes on vacation afterwards. But yeah, I started getting into it. It's pretty good. I'm not a reader. I'm waiting for them to make a movie out of it. I'm like, come on, get a movie out there already. So I just watched
Right.
it.
Well, more often than not, as in the case with Lone Survivor, the movie woefully did not depict Marcus Luttrell's book. Was so much better than the movie. And the movie was okay. I don't know if you want to sit around and watch Navy SEALs get shot up for an hour. I didn't particularly care for that. But the book, I really enjoyed the book. It was great. And that's all I read now is these military books and these documentaries. There's so much going on now. I just don't have a lot of time for fiction. I get all my fiction on TV from ABC, NBC, CBS. I don't need any more fiction.
Yeah, I hear you there. So, all right, let's go to your so to the next segment.
Well, you keep hearing constitutional. All right, we're back. I have to get used to the lay of the land here, Damon. I don't. I did most of my stuff in studio, so I really enjoy that. But anyway, I was saying, all you're hearing now is constitutional crisis, and I'm thinking to myself, the real constitutional crisis is DOGE versus the federal judiciary. That's the real constitutional crisis. And I came up with a paragraph. When plunder and corruption become a way of life for a group of men in society, over the course of time, they create a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. So let me read that again because it's deep. When plunder and corruption become a way of life for a group of men in society, over the course of time, they create a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. They have a legal system that's putting a stop to this corruption, this waste, and this fraud. And they have a moral code through the media that's glorified it over the years, saying you've got millions will die if you stop money from U.S. aid. And to me, this is the biggest constitutional crisis of our time. This is exactly what we're witnessing right now in Washington, D.C. The media, the Democrat Party, the unions, they're all protecting waste, fraud, and abuse. And now I'm told through federal district judges, somehow the Constitution compels the president to go along with fraud and waste and abuse. I don't know. The waste, corruption, fraud, stealing of our taxes, subsidizing people who hate us, subsidizing perversion in other countries. Somehow, if you question or audit it, it's you who is destroying the Constitution. You are a threat to democracy. Somehow, somewhere, the framers of our Constitution intended to protect waste and corruption. So how do I justify that? I mean, a federal judge in Washington gives a nationwide order that the president can't enact the platform that he was elected by 77 million people to enact. I don't understand where these federal judges get this power. Now, I've read the Constitution just recently, the first 7 articles. I was looking for the part on federal judges. Guess what? Not in there. Doesn't exist. So it's surely they don't get their power from the Constitution. Where does their power to stop the president come from? That's the constitutional crisis. If I was Trump, I would ignore these lower courts. Make the Supreme Court step in and do something. This is the constitutional crisis of our time because they will find an activist judge. They will find a district somewhere. They'll put a stop to everything. There's already over 100 court cases that have to be heard about Trump running the executive branch. And then you hear people on TV say, well, he's breaking the law. He's doing illegal. What law is he breaking? What statute, specific statute is he breaking? What law is he breaking? Don't talk in generalities. Tell me specifically, Lisa Murkowski, what statute of Congress, of the law, is he breaking? Don't give me this, he's breaking the law. He's usurping our power. Well, he has just as much power as every other branch of government. He doesn't run the judiciary branch, and judiciary branch doesn't run the executive branch. He has plenary power over the entire bureaucracy, but somehow now he's not allowed to fire people. He must fund waste and abuse. And this is a major issue here. I don't know how this ends. I assume the Supreme Court will step in and put a stop to this nonsense. And listen, the bottom line is, how does this get stopped? What do you do when you have a president? Well, you vote him out. You vote him out. The people have the ultimate control if they don't like what the president's doing. That's who will take care of this, not the federal courts. Right? We had to withstand 4 years of Biden. We didn't go to court for this, that, and even when we did, he defied the courts. He defied the courts on Title IX. He defied the courts on immigration. He defied the courts on student debt. But all of a sudden now we got to follow the courts. This is the constitutional crisis.
Yeah, it is a constitutional crisis because that's the thing. But Democrats, what they did, they broke that glass ceiling, and once they broke it, it can't be fixed. So if they did it, and now they're afraid that they're going to get caught up in everything. Why do you think Biden pre-pardoned all these people so they couldn't go to jail? Because they know they're all guilty of something. So, but once they broke that glass, it can't be unbroken. So you can't say the Trump, even though he's not breaking the law, come in and say, oh no, he's breaking the law and have a federal judge stop him. I mean, Trump should just do exactly what Biden did and say, well,
exactly.
Do what he did. Biden really broke the law. He circumvented the Supreme Court and he bragged about it with the student loans as well.
So he's going to do it anyway.
Yeah, that's it. And then he said, "I'll find a way to do it." He bragged about it when he did. He found ways to do it. Like I don't even know how.
To me, we won this election. We're all feeling great and everything. But to me, the moment is right now. The iron is hot. The sun's out and we're making hay. It's not optional. The budget, not optional. We will go bankrupt if we continue to spend at this rate. Everybody knows it. Foreign policy with Iran, they will be nuclear if we don't do something. Domestic policy with immigration and Title IX. This is the cultural battle that we're fighting right now. With DOGE, the USA will definitely go bankrupt at the rate that we're in. We're $2 trillion budget deficit. Everybody knows this, but just keep spending. It's right now, interest is more than our military budget, and it's only getting worse. We cannot continue this. The moment's now. If we're ever going to win this fight, it's right now. We have the players in place. We have Trump in the White House. This is the time for us to seize the moment. The fight is not over.
No, that's what I always say. We have to keep our foot on the gas. We got the win, but we're not there yet. The only problem is, though, it's kind of like the American way. I know they don't want to cut entitlement programs, and they're not going to. I mean, we can't. They're not going to cut Social Security, and I know they're going all over the place. And always cut 180 billion of Medicaid or Medicare, whatever. But Americans enjoy their entitlement programs, and they like to spend. So I wish it was different. I wish that everyone would get a job and go to work in the private sector and then grow the economy. But that's something like this new bill that they pushed through. Now, they did a great job pushing through. The Speaker, Mike Johnson, to get that slim margin that he had to get everyone pushing through. Now, do I like everything in it? No. But he had to get it through. He had a very slim margin, get it past the moderates. And he did, but that's going to raise the debt ceiling over the next 10 years. It's going to add another $4 trillion to our debt. So, and we're already 37 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
But it's just going to keep going. So there's only a couple of things that we could do. I mean, we're not going to cut the entitlements. I know that. It's not going to happen. Or we're going to go bankrupt. Or we have to bring jobs back to the United States and get a roaring economy. And that's the only way. That's the only way to do it, because Americans like to spend. And I wish it was a little different. People were a little bit more fiscally responsible, but it's just the way Americans are, and it's the way it is. So we have to bring jobs back here and boost this economy and pump it up. It's the only way.
No question about it. And I think that his economy will do that. I really do. But as far as Speaker Johnson's concerned, I really like him. He's a great man. He's an honest guy. He's a religious guy. He's a family guy, smart guy. He was able to keep his caucus together. He was able to get those bills through. However, the spending that you're uncovering now, came under his watch in the House of Representatives. Why didn't any of our representatives see this spending? If there was ever going to be a reason to shut the government down, if you expose the spending that you put your name on, nobody would blame you for that. But yet the Republicans, they didn't know all this money was going to all these places. I'm skeptical on that. I wish Johnson would have been more, the Republicans would have been more aware of what the heck was going on with our money. This is our money. We work hard for our money. And we don't want it spent wastefully. We want it protected. That's the trust that we put in our government officials. So, and the other thing with Johnson is, what's going on with those elections? Now, I know Hochul in New York won't allow that election, so you won't see a representative out of Ellie Stefanik's seat. She won't have that election. But the two elections in Florida, shouldn't they be booted up? When are those elections? We need those two seats. That gives us two more, because they're Republican seats. So when are those elections going to be held? Nobody talks about that. So every time I watch the TV, I'm thinking, ask that question. What's going on with the elections?
I was curious about that. I was going to ask you. You're in Florida.
Well, they're supposed to be in March, but I have not seen anything. I feel a lot better with another two people, in the House of Representatives that are voting for Mike Johnson. He's going to have a heavy lift. I don't know what's going to happen in the Senate. I really don't. And I'm also concerned that the Democrats are going to want to shut the government down. And the reason they're going to do it, they're going to say, is because Trump is the end of democracy. You know, that old line. So there's a lot of really interesting things that are going to be playing out. It's a lot of really, really interesting things playing out right now, not only in the courts, but the battle of the budget. And we have all our foreign policy messes. So I guess, as the Chinese would say, we do live in interesting times. We do live in interesting times.
Absolutely. Well, as I told you, you obtained White House press passes. So that would be one of the questions I ask. What's going on with that election?
Yeah, so, I'm going to dig into that. The next time we talk, I'll have that information, because that's something that I've been very, very, very acutely aware of. We need those two seats, and those two seats are there for us. Let's get them in there as soon as we can. That's the key as far as I'm concerned. But how do we stop the courts? I don't know. I saw the Babylon Bee the other day, had a thing in there. The Babylon Bee. It said federal judge rules the Constitution unconstitutional. So, where do you go with that? But that's kind of where we're heading, right? Ali Khan made that decision to stop the funding, to freeze the aid to USAID and all that. He told Trump, you got to pay it. But he didn't name any statutes that were violated. I read that whole decision. That was his opinion. It wasn't based on any case law. It wasn't based on any statutes that were being, impaired. So I don't know where they get the power to do these things. But we could see how they're going to fight us, and it's going to be in the courts.
Yeah, it definitely will be. It reminds me of the county line here in New Jersey. I don't know if you were familiar with the county line. It was very misleading to voters during the primaries. So it was up to the county chair to give them the line. So the presidential election you're in one column under Trump, and then if you're running for the same for Congress or Senate and you don't get that line, you're all the way out in other columns. So a lot of people just go in the primary, they just light up the one button, and that's it. So Andy Kim filed a lawsuit against it, and he won. So, and then the judge said, all right, we're getting rid of the county line. 2 days later, the judge comes back and says, oh, no, just for Democrats. He deemed it unconstitutional because it was misleading. And he said, no, just for Democrats. Republicans weren't involved in the lawsuit. I'm like, well, it's unconstitutional.
The law's the law, right? I mean, what's going on here? That's what we're running into. And by the way, I did see a New Jersey congressman. Is it Pauline? Paullone. And he said that he's all for this spending, that this spending shouldn't be cut, that DOGE should be put out of business, And all that crazy spending, they should go along with it, and they should let the tax cuts expire, and give every American a 20% tax increase. This is the guy in Jersey. So, with Scott Pressler over in your neck of the woods, he did an amazing job in Pennsylvania. He's an amazing guy. You should try and get him on your podcast. There's a guy that's, and he's a gay. Yeah, we're supposed to hate gay people, right? He's our guy. We follow him to the end of the earth. He's a leader. He really does a great job with that. I think Jersey's fertile ground to turn red in November of this year. I really, really do. I hope Jack Citarelli gets in there. He's a good man. He got close last time. What are your feelings on that election?
Well, I'm not sure which way I'm going yet. I'm not going to divulge that because
you got a primary to deal with. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So my feeling on the election, I'm hoping obviously Republican governor wins. But I had Ed Durr on the 101. Jack had committed to come on, but we don't have a date yet. And Spady had committed to come on the show as well. Going to have Justin Barbera on Monday on the show. He's running as well. So I'm trying to get them all on, and I want to hear from every single one of them, see how they answer the questions, and then I'll make my decision then and go from there. But yes, any one of them than a Democrat. How about that?
Yeah, well, I know Spady is a good man. I don't know him that well. The reason I mentioned Citarelli is because he got so close last time, and he's got the system set up. He's got the infrastructure to run that kind of race, and maybe he knows what he needs to do this time to grab that extra point and a half and put him over the finish line. But you guys are welcome to explore the primary field, which, in the Senate race, we should have done a better job of. We all got behind Bashaw, and he turned out to be, in my opinion, not a good candidate. So, I liked Murphy.
He was not.
Yeah, I liked Murphy, but Murphy didn't have the, the money behind him. And nobody else really stepped up in that. The girl got in, the Trump's, I guess the wife of the Trump. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and a little bit.
Yeah, she actually endorsed. Trump endorsed her way too late. That's the problem.
Exactly. She got in too late. She got in too late. Bashaw had already been around all the counties. He won all those county votes and got his name at the top of the primary ticket and all that. But when it came to the general, he let us down. He didn't do a good job in the general. I just don't think he did at all.
No, he didn't.
I watched his debate with Kim, and he was weak. He looked scared. I don't know what's wrong with him. Maybe.
So yeah, he froze for a little while.
Yeah, exactly. He looked weak to me. Yeah.
So something was wrong with him. I don't know what happened. So
yeah, that was not good. That was not good.
So I guess
anyway, I'm ready for the media propaganda machine and the Democrats to concoct a whole new set of lies that we'll have to deal with, and never mention all the other lies that they've already spewed. So they're going to be coming at us with, they're going to cut Social Security, they're going to cut Medicaid, they're going to cut Medicare, they're going to make sure that kids don't have school lunches. I don't think any of that is on the table to be cut. When we talk about Medicaid, we're talking about people that don't deserve it. Fraud, waste, corruption. I don't know how anybody can argue against that. But let the Democrats argue that point. It's a losing point for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, what the Democrats want to do, they just want to blow money as much as they possibly can, get 4 votes, and get elected, and just keep kicking the can further down the road. And that's all they care about. So they all care about power. I mean, there was a lot of Republicans the same way too. That's why I believe in term limits, because you should have term limits for everything. You can't be in the Senate for 40 years like Biden or whatever. And it's just, you need new blood. I mean, and with the spending too. That's the whole point of Congress. That's why Congress is only 2 years, because they handle the money, they handle the spending. So if they're spending too much money, you vote them out.
Exactly.
Senate's a little bit longer, but that's it. So.
But the House of Representatives is closest. The House of Representatives is the closest to the people. They set it up that way because they're the closest to the, the representatives of the people. That's why it's every 2 years, and that's why they control the money. Somebody sees something they don't like, they have the power to vote them out. We have a saying as far as the term limits go in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. will never fix Washington, D.C. You could send all the conservatives, the Chip Roys, the Mike Lees, the Jim Jordans, but nothing ever changes. Now we have an opportunity. We have a unique opportunity to change Washington, D.C. We got to go for it. We got to resist the backlash. We got to resist the media narrative and the media lies, and we got to get it done. This is our chance, Damon. This is what we voted for, and this is what we want.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So we this is our chance if we have the position. This is the closest I think we're ever going to get, and that's why we can't keep our foot off the gas. But I got a couple clips. I have some clips cut for this segment. So
Yeah, go ahead.
But let's check this one out. Let's roll
in 30 days.
S2V1.
Let's take a look.
What I've said very publicly, the Democrats need to play possum. This whole thing is collapsing. It doesn't need Elizabeth Warren and somebody screaming to pacify some progressive advocacy groups in Washington, which, by the way, I wish these people were just useless. They're actually worse than useless, that they're detrimental. And they never, ever learn to shut up. And so, Dan, this is what I believe. I believe that this administration, in less than 30 days, in the midst of a massive collapse, and particularly a collapse in public opinion, it's going to be easy pickings here in 6 weeks. Just lay back.
So you literally think 30 days to 6 weeks, the Trump administration is effectively going to collapse in terms of public support?
Well, it's collapsing right now. We're in the midst of a collapse. This is the lowest approval, not even close, that any president has ever had at a comparable time. Again, that's approvable.
So, what do you think about that?
What I think is a fool that stays a fool, and James Carville is a fool. He's just stupid. Yeah. Now, why is he so special? He got Bill Clinton elected. He beat George Bush, the first Bush. How did he do that? There was an independent in the election that got 13% of the vote. His name was Ross Perot. If Ross Perot wasn't in that election, you wouldn't even know who James Carville is. That's the only reason that's his claim to fame, and he was pure luck because Ross Perot was in the race. Otherwise, Bush wins that race easy. So, listen. He's the guy that's doing all the squawking, and he's talking about everybody squawking. So, as far as I'm concerned, he could stay out there all he wants. He's not going to win any more elections. I don't think he's relevant. I really don't.
No, I don't either. But he likes to get out there and talk a lot. Looks like he eats mice. For dinner, that guy.
Nobody's reporting this. You're seeing a media narrative now that Republicans at these town hall meetings are facing backlash. Now, it has come out that all the protesters, the big mouths in these town hall meetings, are all funded by left-wing organizations. These aren't Republicans. Most of these people don't even vote in that district, but they're getting paid to go to these town halls and make it look like the people are revolting. Where does he get those poll numbers from? All the poll numbers I see say America is behind DOGE 100%. They're behind Trump. He's had the best approval ratings he's ever had in his life. So, I don't know. I'm seeing a different world than James Carville. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, let's go to S2V2.
According to Chris, quote, we have cultivated sources within the NSA, one current employee and one former employee, who have provided chat logs from the NSA's Interlink messaging program. According to an NSA press official, all NSA employees sign agreements stating that publishing non-mission related material on Interlink is a usage violation and will result in disciplinary action. Nonetheless, these logs, dating back 2 years, are lurid, featuring wide-ranging discussions of polyamory and, well, they're doing all these crazy things on taxpayer time. Right? This isn't them on their weird websites, like in their off hours. This is during their government employment using government networks. They're talking about their particular fetishes. And this is supposed to be part of the equity agenda, right? The equity agenda is to make sure that people who are sexually diverse staff the NSA. That's the important thing, not stopping foreign threats, not monitoring terrorist groups. The important thing is that weirdos who think that it's some sort of turn on to cut off their genitals can talk to one another. That is the most important thing at our institutions. Understand that for the left, our institutions are about reshaping the human beings who go into them and then using those reshaped human beings to reshape the United States of America. They are not about actually fulfilling the delegated functions of those institutions. The Department of Education is not about educating children. The Department of Education is about creating pipelines to left-wing interest groups that then reshape the nature of the American body politic. And apparently the NSA is about providing a safe space for people to discuss having their butthole zapped with lasers. I'm not even kidding.
So I had to play the whole clip with Ben, the long clip. He talks a lot faster than I do. So I figured let him explain it. But it's unbelievable. I mean, what's your take on that?
And you're just scratching the surface. You're going to find this in all the agencies. I mean, they've been so littered with left-wing ideology that people think it's actually okay to do that. They don't even wait till they get home to do these things. What they do at home, I could care less. They can go in all the chat rooms they want. They can have all the fetishes they want. But when they're at work and they're getting paid by our tax dollars and they're in charge of things like national security, I would expect 110% of their motivation to be about their work, to be about what's best for America. And they have so little respect for us, Damon. That's what it comes down to. They have no respect for the people that wake up at 7:30 in the morning, go to work every day. You see what they do with our tax dollars, and you see what, how they feel they should operate inside their cubicles at work. And I had been a civil service person for a number of years when I first got out of college, and I took my job seriously. I would never be involved in anything like that in the workplace. Boy, has that deteriorated. It's almost unbelievable. It really is. And I hope she fires every one of them.
I believe I just heard they just found some more in the CIA as well. My co-host was talking about it earlier in a radio show, and he said there's some more things coming out in the CIA. So it's all of our security agencies. It seems like they're getting into this stuff. So glad they're finding it out, though. We would never known before.
Yeah, and these guys are internal actors. This is the problem with the bureaucracy. It's unelected, and it has no repercussions for their activities. So, there's a lot of bad actors in there, and I'm surprised that John Ratcliffe, he's going to have a tough job rooting out who's really on our team and who's not. I'd be giving polygraphs to all my upper-level managers saying, hey, what are your feelings on this? What are your feelings on that? Just today we found out we were supposed to get the Epstein list. Everybody's waiting for it. Well, it turns out the FBI had another 1,000 pages of information that they lied to Pam Bondi about. They did not give her that information. Now she's supposed to get it tomorrow, but who are these actors in the FBI thinking that they can go around the Attorney General? That's not how it works when you work in an organization like that. There's a flow chart. There's people above you. You either do what they say or you quit. That's how you handle those types of things.
How do you know? How do you know what they destroyed any of it? That's the thing too. How would you prove that?
Well, I had found out that when they were doing their raid of Epstein's house, that there was a safe there that had a bunch of documents in it, and it was open. But the FBI said we weren't allowed to take any of that stuff because the safe wasn't part of the search warrant. So then when they came back 2 days later, it was all gone. So obviously that's some kind of a setup. What did the warrant say? You can go through Melania's underwear drawer? I mean, I've never heard of such a thing. They have a safe there. They're in there to get evidence, and they don't take the evidence. Then, of course, it disappears. So they're protecting people that are on that list. There's no doubt about it. Hopefully it'll come out. Hopefully it'll come out. And hopefully President Trump's name's not on it. I don't think it is. It's probably already come out, right?
Yeah.
That would have been out years ago.
If they see some of the people that we think that are on that list, you're going to see some suicides and and everything else, because I think there's a lot of high profile people that were on that list. It's going to be so if they
Legally,
get yeah. So I know it's getting late. We got a third segment to go to, so I know you're going to be eating dinner soon. So we're going to roll to our next segment. We got some more clips to play.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So, all right, now to segment 3, that's labeled Trump is King. And the reason why, but a question mark, because it'll be in one of these clips that we're about to see where they're complaining. And this will go back to, we were talking about the town halls, and, they're not even really Republicans. They are paid to go there. So we'll start off with rolling.
Tyranny is rising in the White House, and a man has declared himself our king. So I would like to know, rather, the people would like to know what you, congressmen, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac.
Yeah. So called Trump King. So, and then more of that clip. I mean, they really go off on him. I think I had another clip in there with that, but he's they wouldn't let him speak. They were attacking him, and it was the same thing. The same thing as the lady that was on the radio show earlier. Like, just wouldn't let. He's like, if you want me to answer the question, I will. But I was just a bunch of people attacking him. He was trying to answer the question.
Listen, these are all leftists that are paid to be there. These are paid protesters. These are paid agitators. These aren't Republicans. I guarantee you that lady might not even vote in that district. And then the mainstream media presents that as pushback to DOGE, which it is not. Pushback to Trump. I think everybody loves what Trump's doing. I'm not so sure about Canada being the 51st state or owning Gaza. I don't know if I'm on board with that, because I look at Canada and I see 2 Democratic senators. That's what I see, because they're kind of liberal up there. So yeah, I mean, the King thing, I guess that's the way they're going to approach. They're going to attack that thing. I was talking to a Democrat the other day, and he told me Article 2 requires the president. I said, whoa. Article 2 empowers the president. It doesn't require the president to do anything. It empowers him to be the head of the executive branch. A single person, one person in charge of the entire branch of government, elected by the people. That's the way it works. Not required to do this or that. Now, he's got to follow the laws of the land. But the things that he's doing, name me a law he's breaking. Name me a statute that he's violating. I never hear it. All I hear is, oh, he's a king and he's this and he's that. But they never give specifics. And that's the way, that's the way they roll. That's their motto. Just muddy the water and never be specific. Mm-hmm. So,
exactly. Never be about anything. It's just throw the mud and hope it sticks. But they don't understand. Like Trump is already a mud monster. So you could throw as much mud at him as you possibly can, and it can stick, and he's just going to be Trump. So
that's all I hear. I hear it every day.
As a king. So no, all 77 million people elected that king. I've never seen a king elected before.
Yeah, you gotta deal with it. Suck it up like we did. Right? We sucked it up for 4 years. I mean, that hurt. That was painful at times. Believe me. But you had to go along with it.
Yeah, no one that did cheat in that election. No one for sure.
Absolutely.
No way.
In a way, it was a blessing, because Gen Z, Gen X, a lot of people saw now what the left is really all about, and they don't want it. They don't want a revolution by immigration. They don't want the end of the combustion engine. They don't want their economy to be turned inside out. We don't want any of those things. If electric cars are great, go buy one. I have no problem with that. But I sure as heck don't want to be forced to buy an EV. And what's that all about? It's supposed to be America. You're supposed to buy whatever you want to buy.
No, you're correct. You're correct. So let's roll into.
I'm not going to
S3
give you my best foghorn leghorn response to that. But what I was, you can go ahead and sit down. Thank you. When you talk about tyranny, when you talk about presidential power, I remember having the same discussion with Republicans when Biden was elected. The funny thing is, you're sitting here and a lot of you would probably say those January 6s who are yelling just as loud as you, who are upset just like you, and not listening.
Hey, let's restore some order. Let's restore some order. Hey, let's restore some order.
So yelling at me is not going to get any answer, okay?
Hey,
like I said, we're not going to
point of
yell.
order. Hey, let's get through this, Congressman. Hey.
Yeah. I've seen Game of Thrones too. Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on, because if you're not going to listen to the answer, we might as well not discuss it, right? Do you want to hear the answer? If you'd stop yelling, I will answer. Otherwise.
So that right there, I was talking. It was hard for me to hear the people in the background yelling, but they were screaming "shame, shame, shame" like over and over again. Wouldn't let them talk, and that's why I said I seen Game of Thrones too, as men as well. But yeah, I mean, it's just like you were saying. There's send people. They're not even Republicans. They're left-wing actors, probably paid to go there to upset the town hall meeting and not let you speak. And that's the same thing I just experienced, like I said, on my radio show. I'm not saying that lady was paid to call in, but they just go to interrupt. So they ask you a question and then they just start screaming at you and there's no conversation.
Well, there's a lot of people out there that are affected by Stockholm syndrome, which, is brainwashing, basically. You remember Patty Hearst, and they said, oh, yeah, she was convinced to go rob a bank or whatever it was. And they stay on the mainstream, the alphabet channels, and that's what they hear day in and day out. And they actually start to believe it. They actually it starts to resonate with them. And like you were saying earlier, who controls the narrative controls the people. And that's really true to a large extent. Unfortunately, it's just a fact. And they own the media. The Democrats have done a good job building their infrastructure with education, with media. They own all those things. And, so we got a heavy lift. We really got to shift the narrative. And I think it's podcasts like this that are going to help people do that. I really do.
Yeah, no, I hope so. I mean, that's why we're doing this. I'm definitely going to try to shift the narrative. I mean, the Democrats played the long game. I'll give them that. They've been doing this for a long time. So,
they really do. You got to give them credit for that. I hate to give them credit for anything, but I also want to I don't want to underestimate my opponent, right? Like the great Sun Tzu said, never underestimate your opponent. And I believe things will greatly improve for the American citizens, all citizens, races, creeds, genders, unions, young, old, and everybody in between. What will be strong military, energy independence, global respect, fiscal responsibility, common sense, and the end of abusing the justice system for political gain. These things are all going to happen, and they'll resonate with the people. It's a battle, but it's a battle that we can win. But we got to stay at it. We can't just relax now that we won the election and then let them carry the narrative, and then we lose the House. You know what happens when we lose the House? Trump gets impeached again. Probably won, right? For whatever. They'll make something up. But, that's the fight at hand right now. And, it's going to be a battle. It really is. It's going to be a battle. No question about it. They always say the end of democracy. The end of democracy. What the hell does that mean? Are they going to stop having elections? It's never defined. No media ever pushes back and saying, hey, end of democracy. What do you mean by that? Can you be specific? One thing, just one.
We're a constitutional republic, by the way. So
yeah, we're not even a democracy.
We're a constitutional
but it sells good. Again, the narrative, right? It sells good. Oh, the Constitution's in peril. These people don't even know what the Constitution is if it hit them on the head. But now all of a sudden the Democrats like the Constitution. Boy, that's pretty hypocritical if you ask me. But that's the deal. And the propaganda machine, it is active. It is really active. The Obamas, they made over $45 million fighting the system. Now, how does a guy like that make $45 million? It makes me wonder about all that money that's pouring out. And, now all of a sudden, all these politicians are worth unbelievable amounts of money. Where did all that money come from? I'd like to see that checked out at some point. I really would. I know we got a lot of priorities bigger than that. But at some point, I'd love to get around to see how Joe Biden amassed $20 million, making $180,000 a year. I just don't know how you do that. Maybe he's the best investor there ever was, better than Warren Buffett. But I don't believe that, right?
Of course,
I don't believe that.
Of course not. So, all right, this is I think it's my favorite clip of the night. I'm sure you saw it. Let's roll.
2 weeks ago, I signed an executive order banning men from playing in women's sports. Many Democrats are fighting me on that. I hope you continue because you'll never win another race. And it's just crazy. If you look at what happened with the boxing, if you look at what happened with the weightlifting numbers, where a record that hadn't been broken for 19 years got shattered. But, they put up an eighth of an ounce here, an eighth of an ounce there, and it's 218 pounds or whatever it was that. And hadn't been broken in 19 years. And then guy walks up who transitioned. He transitioned, and he knocked out that record by about 100 pounds. That will be a record not going to be broken again in a longer. So we put a
No, well, that didn't go long. It didn't go long enough. I wanted that clip to go longer when he asked for the Governor of Maine. So I guess it's on the next. It's going to be on the next clip.
The
so
NCAA
let's roll that.
has complied immediately. By the way, that's good. But I understand Maine. Is the Maine here? The Governor of Maine? Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. Every state has a responsibility to comply with Title IX. They have an obligation, a legal obligation, and we'll be enforcing aggressively, and we're going to be protecting ourselves.
That's great. That is great. Isn't that great? That is great. I love that. Trump is the best. Well, you're going to be out of politics. You never know. There might be a bunch of crazy leftists up in Maine. I don't know. I don't know their electorate up there that well, but it just goes to show you.
Great.
Yeah, the first thing she says is, "We'll see you in court." Why? Because she knows she'll win in court. She'll get an activist judge. She'll bring the case in some remote location that's all Democrats. He'll put a nationwide injunction on it. That fight is coming, and eventually the Supreme Court has got to step in. John Roberts has got to step up. He has the power to control these federal judges. Now, the federal judges have been rebuked in the past for these nationwide injunctions. These are district judges, one district. What would give them the power to do it nationwide? Now, if they said, oh, well, we want you to keep the funding for this location that's in my district, you might say, but no, they do it nationwide. They're district judges. Where does that power come from? I don't. I'm miffed.
I don't know either.
I'm miffed by that. I really am. But again, that's an 80-20 issue. The people are on our side. It's only fair. You have a daughter. How difficult it is to be an athlete, not to mention all the hours that you put in, all the practices, all the travel teams, all the 7 a.m. wake-up calls, all the summers that you got to be working in camp and not at the beach with your family. I made those sacrifices. I was a college athlete. And I don't think it's fair to the women that put that work in and get to that level to have a man come in there. And don't tell me there's not an advantage. There's a huge advantage. It's just so wrong for our women. It's Title IX. It's women's sports. That's why they call it women's sports. No men. Let them have their own division if they want. But this is really, it has to be stopped. There's no question about it. It has to be stopped. And I guess the Supreme Court will have to, they'll have to weigh in on that. They'll have to weigh in on that.
They're going to have to. I just can't wrap my head around why somebody would want to fight that. It's just, again, where's the common sense? Like, I just don't.
The people don't want it. It's going to get interesting because the Olympics are here I think, in LA in 2 years or something like that. Trump said, if you're a man, you ain't playing in women's sports. We ain't giving you a visa. So you're not coming over here and playing in the Olympics. So, man, there's a battle. There's storm clouds on the horizon. It'll be really curious to see how that shakes out. Be really like that boxer beat up all them women. He ain't coming over here to do that. Trump ain't allowing that. So we'll have to see how that all works. It's really a tragedy to see these men taking medals away from women. It's what would motivate a man to do that? To me, that's I just don't understand it.
Well, I mean, I would say for them to do it, I mean, gender dysphoria, it's a mental illness. So they're already mentally ill. So
exactly.
That's why women.
And you see a lot of these school shootings and stuff. I was reading something in a medical journal where 90% of all the school shootings, whether they be males or females, or either have some type of gender dysphoria or they're on some type of antidepressant drug like Zoloft or Ritalin. And nobody ever mentions that. They say, oh, the guns. But there's a common element here, and it's mental illness. And that's where we're going to stop these predators, these people from lashing out the way they do. The doctor's got to step up and say, hey, this kid shouldn't own a gun. You got to be careful. There's warning signs. That'll stop the school shootings quicker than banning guns, in my opinion. But, as far as the gun issue goes, what I say about the gun issue is what is going to save more lives as far as gun control? More fathers in the home or more laws about guns? I say more fathers in the home. You get more fathers staying home with their kids, creating those values, you're going to have less problems with guns. And all the gun laws in the world ain't going to stop gun violence. So we need to do something.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I think the two-parent household as well. I mean, and the father is very important to be in the home, just as important as the mother. But the two-parent households, I think back in like the 30s, it was two-parent households were like somewhere around 79%, something like that. But there was wars, fathers died, stuff like that. But now, I believe we're down to like 43%.
That's really a travesty. Yeah, that's a travesty. Yeah. And Milton Friedman would say that all came after the 1964 law that Johnson passed on the war on poverty. And people that were married didn't get as much money as people that weren't married. And therefore, it created an environment. It created a climate of single-family, single-parent households. And, that's really sad because the Black communities had a strong family unit in 40s to 30s to 40s to 50s to 60s even. And after 64, that all fell apart. So, I think there's something to that. I really do.
There sure is. So, all right, well, it's getting late. We just have one last quick segment we're going to roll to. It's our JSP Award and Loser of the Week Award. And then we'll wrap it up.
Sounds good.
All right, so I'm just going to run through this real quick. So the JSP Award is the Jersey Shore Patriot Award. I'm going to give that to Dan Bongino this week for the position he got, assistant director. So I was so glad that he got it. I didn't even know they were looking at him for that, but I think he'd be perfect. So I think he's a true patriot. I like him. I watch his podcast. Well, I'm not going to be watching it anymore. His wife's taking over. But I think he was the perfect pick for it. He's eccentric and he's like goes over the top a little bit sometimes, but he's on point. And I think he cares about his country. He's a patriot. So.
Exactly. He's going to put 120% into that job. I just hope that Kash Patel was on board with that and Trump said, hey, is this the guy you want? Because Kash needs somebody that's going to be loyal. I believe Dan will be, but I don't know their relationship. I hope they get along because they're going to have to work together. That's a very important position, deputy director of the FBI. That's not just a figurehead. Remember our friend McCabe and all the stuff that he was involved in, all the illegal activity that he was involved in, lying to inspector generals and things like that. He eventually got fired, and then Biden, I guess, gave him his pension back. But that's a very important position, and Dan has got he's got a lot of work to do cleaning up that unit. He's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think he will. I think he will. So, well, for the Loser of the Week award, I got to go with the last clip that we played with Janet Mills. That Trump has kind of owned her in there. So she's getting Loser of the Week award. The video, the clip speaks for itself. So, but yeah, that was pretty good. I like how Trump just like kind of took her out and said, yeah, I'll see you in court. Sure. I'm going to win. So, but before we go, I just want to say thanks for coming on. And I just want to talk about my radio show, 92.1 WVLT. That's on from 5 to 6 p.m. every Thursday. And also the America's Pulse Network, all the podcasters. We have Alexandra Levine Live. We have the Conservative Corner coming on. And obviously the Jersey Shore, SURE. So, and we're going to be growing pretty substantially very fast. That's the plan. It's looking that way. So, but press passes, and then maybe I'll get Steve Bannon on that. I think that would be a big one.
Well, that would be fantastic. If you could get Bannon on, that would be a feather in your cap, Damon.
Yeah. So, but hey, listen, you're a great guest, awesome guest. Love to have you on again. Anytime you want to come on. It's good talk.
Hey, Damon, I just had a little close I wanted to give, and so just take a second. In the long run, I think we need to get away from a fear-based culture and back to a faith-based culture. Fear breeds anxiety, paranoia, toxicity, ultimately separation. Examples: climate change, COVID, structural racism. Faith brings strength, brings confidence, it brings ambition, and ultimately unity. When secularism starts to replace the Judeo-Christian values, you see the result: dress codes, language, rampant drug use, nudity, and many, many more examples. American history, this first time in American history, less than 50% of the population have a religious affiliation. We need that to change. We really, really need that to change. And hopefully with Trump coming in, they said a prayer before the cabinet meeting yesterday. I thought that was really refreshing. It's been a pleasure being on your podcast. I'm sure I'll come back on again. You're putting out a really, really great message, and I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just to speak to that too, another quick stat for you. I believe the numbers are about the same about people that went to church. Like back in the 30s, I think it was somewhere around like 80%. Now we're down to the low 40s, like 41%. So I think that's very important to get God back in your life.
Exactly.
So if you go to America's Pulse, AmericasPulseNetwork.com, that's our website. And if you want to apply, we have an application on there if you want to start podcasting.
I don't know if I'm a podcaster, but I'll tell you this: I'm in the fight, and I'm doing my research and I'm doing my homework every day. I read the indictments, I do my research. I want the truth. That's all I really want, so that I can at least tell the people around me, no, that's not what happened. This is what happened. And I'm going to continue to do that. And, hopefully we'll get a chance to chat again soon.
All right, you got it. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, Damon. God bless you.
From the mind of Brian O'Callahan.
Buy it today at Amazon.com.
Enter the dark world of betrayal, kidnapping, and human trafficking. Verified readers call Bone Deep Blues powerful and engaging, gripping, well-written, exciting.
Buy it today at Amazon.com.
A must heart-pounding read.
Amazon verified reviews say it's a super storyline, excellent, thrilling.
Experience the magic. Order now from Amazon.com. Choose from digital, paperback, or hardcover editions.
Stone cold hearts in the land of the free. Galvanized truth, just you and me. Freedom ain't cheap, gotta hold tight. In Jersey, sure we'll win this fight. No more tears, just righteous pride. In the streets, our spirits reside. Unity strong, we walk this line. One big voice, it's our time. Jersey, sure we got the fight. Stand together through the night. America first, raising the flag. We ain't never gonna lag. Tears, just righteous pride. In the streets, our spirits reside. Unity strong, we walk this line. One big voice, it's our time. Generation fighters, take the stand. From shore to shore, we reclaim the land. Grit and glory in every strand. In Jersey, sure we make our stand.
All that stuff. And we are done. Okay.